Hey man, here. Gonna do another movie, another Raiders. Getting pretty excited. What are we doing?
Since the earliest days of movie making, the genre of the Lost World and its prehistoric denizens is one that always seems to die out, only to be rediscovered once again. From B-movies and cult films to modern blockbusters, we are the Raiders of the Lost genre.
Hey Dave.
Hey man.
Okay, today we're watching King Kong vs. Godzilla, the original.
Nice.
Yeah,
so, you know, all jokes aside, I am legitimately excited about this.
Sweet. Yeah, obviously we're watching this partly in excitement over Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah, the new big release.
Yeah. So let's watch the original and head back to 1963, I believe, and see the original Americanized dubbed version.
Right. I don't want to like tip our hand too much, but I do like how the idea here is like they are two opposing forces. We have an animal and a reptile, and as such, electricity comes into a character role.
Yeah.
That will make no sense.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil it right away, but electricity is a huge part of this movie. You're going to love it.
It's true. I'm a big fan of this one myself. I've seen it entirely too many times. There's a point where this was a staple of our bad movie night back in the day, and now it's just one of those movies that I unabashedly love.
I love everything about this. Like the costume, I think is... the Godzilla costume is going to be whatever it is. Like,
Right.
There's 400 million Godzilla costumes made, so
True.
It's like, whatever, throw a dart at a map. Very few King Kong costumes ever made. Very small pickings. And this is one of the finest.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind, there are very few made.
There's a couple of close-ups, though. The blinkety-blink close-up shot. Not so much.
No, yeah, it gets dicey. But still, out of the three made, top three.
Looking for this. All right, here we go. Ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
That's how I always think of monster movies, starting with Shakespeare quotes.
Yep.
I'm not certain that this was my first Godzilla film as a child, but it sure feels like it. Similar to rooting for the home team, Kong was my favorite monster growing up, but Godzilla was nearly a secret equal in my eyes. And this 1960s film made the distinction all the harder to differentiate at the age of 9. The imagery held up in my memory over the years, but the film doesn't always live up to it. Still, the very concept excites the imagination to this day, seeing the ultimate titans of cinema monsters going head-to-head to reign supreme.
Oh, one of the Hondas. This is going to run really well.
The film is based quite a lot on established lore. It had been 7 years since the first sequel, 1955's Godzilla Raids Again, and King Kong was still a legend thanks to TV showings and theatrical re-releases of the 1933 original film. So while this one picks up in continuity from Godzilla's second film, it basically asks you to understand who Kong is, even though his home is a different island this time, and he's about 40 meters taller. Regardless, he's still the same unexplained throwback creature that evolved in a lost, semi-prehistoric ecosystem and is kept behind an ancient wall built by the local tiki carvers in an attempt to protect themselves from their island deity.
The world is stunned to discover that prehistoric creatures exist in the 20th century.
Hey guys, us again, the Americans. I know it was weird watching people who weren't white.
Godzilla, though, is essentially still the irradiated dinosaur from 1954's Gojira, resurrected, scarred, and superpowered by atomic testing, and all the more pissed at humans for it.
You know, the ice cap is getting hotter and hotter.
Early in the film, a U.S. submarine is investigating strange lights in the Arctic and collides with an iceberg,
Oh man, Mom's gonna be so pissed she just bought that.
releasing Godzilla from his frozen entombment since the end of Godzilla Raids Again.
I actually love this shot. This might be I think this is my favorite Godzilla emergence of all the older films.
Godzilla!
Captain, the water's really cold.
Burr, Captain!
Meanwhile, a Tokyo-based pharmaceutical company ridiculously vies for television ratings by sending two of its executives, including Tadao Takashima as Sakurai.
Stop! Stop, I'm convinced!
Hold it! Don't do that! No, don't!
No, it's already been beta tested. Think,
To Faro Island to bring back its, perhaps mythical, monster just for the sake of publicity.
Uh-oh.
Do we want to make any sort of comments on the unauthorized use of brownface?
Brownface on any other race is still just as bad.
Exactly.
The beast in question turns out to be real enough. It is island god King Kong.
She has a wicker bra.
She got it at Bed Bath & Beyond.
She must have got it in that Beyond section.
Yeah, it was definitely... I'm uncomfortable looking at this child's butt.
Yeah, let's go back to the wicker bra. That's
There
much
we
better.
go.
Who appears conveniently when a giant octopus attacks the villagers.
Yes, there we go. But that's weird that this is the first time that they've proactively gone out to protect themselves with something in kind, and
Right.
it's done for greed.
Right.
Like, wouldn't the lazy man think of that?
Maybe if we got our own monster.
Yeah, like maybe
That's a great idea.
one day they open it up to a Q&A at a town hall, and one guy's like, I know someone's already thought of this, but maybe there's another giant monster we could get?
Yeah, of course we already thought of that, you idiot.
Go get it, monster.
Kong smashes the village wall, storms the beach, and battles the octopus.
Totally beating the shit out of that garbage bag.
The tentacled monstrosity retreats, and Kong treats himself to a drink of the village berry juice made from a local plant that causes a narcotic effect.
Oh, now he's getting high.
Oh, you guys, you gotta try this red shit. Oh my god.
The villagers soothe the savage creature with drum beats and a sacred dance, and Kong passes out, allowing Sakurai's company to capture him.
Perfect opportunity for the camera to pan out. Giant lawn chair. Ah, Kong. chilling
Hanging out on the beach,
Yeah.
watching the sea, getting drunk, getting high. Girls, take off your bras. We need to make a lawn chair.
Godzilla is busy rampaging towards the heart of Japan.
Roll out the toy tanks from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
He destroys a military base, then crushes a train, nearly killing Sakurai's sister Fumiko.
Mr. Lionel is watching this and
He's like, no, why God, why?
Trains were all I had.
Played by Mai Hama, perhaps best known from Bond film You Only Live Twice.
Poor women in Japan. Never even learned how to walk.
Sad, really.
Back on the ocean, Kong is being towed to television glory on a raft, though the Japanese Navy wisely tells the drug company to turn back.
Oh, they're getting pulled over. You got a license for that, Kong? The Japanese government also said, next time you try to sneak a fucking monster into it, we'll fucking kill you.
And to think of all the contraband that they have stuffed up Kong's ass.
The giant gorilla wakes up and escapes anyway.
It's only 10 feet deep here.
Yeah, the Kong suit doesn't look real great when it's wet.
Landing on Japanese shores and running straight into the nuclear lizard.
Oh god, why are we going in front of his face?
It's over, Kong. I have the high ground.
The first battle is clearly a win for Godzilla, and Kong wanders off, obviously disturbed by atomic envy.
Ah, the reptile. Reptiles hate
Reptiles hate.
electricity.
King Kong comes from the same island as reptiles.
Reptiles.
I think your emphasis is on the wrong syllable.
Japanese defense forces try to electrocute, trap, and bury Godzilla.
Go back! He's alive!
But modern weapons and ingenuity are no match for the radioactive dinosaur.
Connect tension.
Feel very tense, sir.
Oh boy. Tension is rising.
I've got a plan. It's a little convoluted. We teach him how to tap dance, and on the day of the big recital, we switch his shoes to a smaller size.
Amazing. Let's go with it.
He's embarrassed and never shows his face in Tokyo again.
Godzilla walking away like this.
Ah, I blew it!
Kong enters Tokyo first, though, chewing on high-tension wires and trashing an escaping train as well.
King Kong has entered Tokyo, and Tokyo likes it.
I love this shot.
That's a cool shot.
Fumiko, who never seems to learn, was on board this one too, and ends up in the clutches of the beast, fascinated once again by the sight of a tiny beauty.
Clever.
Yeah?
Not good,
No.
but clever.
Yeah.
Sakurai and the military use some berry dust and drum beats to knock Kong out and rescue the damsel.
Kong vs. Godzilla.
Let them fight.
And there's no music to make unrolling a balloon exciting. Or filling a balloon.
Manos, the
Hands of fate.
Hands of Fate.
Fumiko's boyfriend then offers his own invention of nearly indestructible wire to help airlift Kong out of the city.
Turn on the helium.
Helium deployed, sir.
I think someone awoke Cthulhu because the perspective is non-Euclidean up in this bitch. Oh, the eyes.
The defense forces drop the creature almost directly on Godzilla, hoping the two monsters will destroy one another.
That did not go as planned.
The lead-up was clever, but the payoff was not.
In the ensuing fight, Godzilla nearly kills King Kong.
King Kong cushion.
Ooh, flame to the face.
But the gorilla gets a power-up from an electrical storm's lightning bolt.
What?
Zombie Kong rises from the dead. We'll sell you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge. Eat the tree, eat it, eat it.
Somehow turned into a Japanese Punch and Judy.
Ooh, sweep the leg.
The two battle across the countryside, trashing a castle and tackling each other into the ocean, triggering an earthquake.
My Legos! Bye, guys!
King Kong reigns supreme.
Godzilla disappears, though Kong surfaces, swimming for home.
Or is swimming back home with his tail between his legs.
I was wondering which one was going to win in this version.
King Kong vs. Godzilla would be the first time either character appeared in color, while cashing in on the popularity of Kong and utilizing Toho's ready-made foe. Because the film was a smash hit in Japan upon release, it set the standard formula for most kaiju films to follow, though RKO retained the rights to Kong and Toho made do with a Godzilla franchise instead. It seemed to work out alright for the Big G. 59 years and close to 40 films later, Godzilla and Kong were due for a rematch in 2021 via America's legendary MonsterVerse series of films. The original still holds the record as the highest attended Godzilla film in Japan, while its American version got heavy edits and new Americanized scenes, heightening the camp factor overall. Toho's productions have never had the time nor money US studios can afford, and it shows in a flick like King Kong vs. Godzilla. This is not the sophistication of Willis O'Brien's stop motion, nor the dark, destructive imagery of the original Gojira, but it's still a favorite of mine, and it's a great romp if you're into classic suit-mation effects between big-name monsters. It just doesn't get any bigger than Godzilla and King Kong.
So, 1963, King Kong versus Godzilla, which started off as another one of those ideas from Willis O'Brien, strangely enough, where he's like, Willis O'Brien was like, hey, I got an idea. What if we have a monster fighting a monster? What's going to be the other monster? Well, the only other monster that matters, Frankenstein's monster.
Oh, yeah. So I did, now that you say that, it does come back to me.
Right.
It was supposed to be Frankenstein versus Godzilla.
Right.
Full disclosure, I came into this being like, oh man, I can't wait to relive this classic. I haven't seen it in a few years, so I felt excited to get back into it. Oh, I don't think I like it very much.
Really?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, the costumes and stuff, like all the monster fighting, that stuff's cool. But but it's got so many problematic areas.
It was made on the cheap. Godzilla in the first place is inspired not only by King Kong, but by Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. They took one look at Ray Harryhausen's special effects, stop motion special effects, and said, we need to do our version of that. And then somebody was like, yeah, but we churn out movies like it's going out of style. Yeah. So who's going to sit around and do stop motion? And they're like, oh, well, we'll do a guy in a suit. And sometimes it's really effective, and I like some of the fight scenes, and sometimes it really sucks. And there's moments where it's really laughable.
Yeah, I don't think there's any of the fight scenes where I came away being like, eh. Even like the beginning one where it's like touch and go, where it's like, all right, I'm gonna throw a rock at you, you're gonna spit some fire at me, and I'm gonna scratch my head, and we're gonna regroup. Even that one's fine, because it's like they're sort of feeling each other out, and there's like, since they're the only characters, that's their bit of character development. It's kind of like a meet cute where they're like, okay, let's get a feel for each other.
You know, I was reading a little bit on this, and they were saying how, to a certain degree, the movie was, when it was initially produced by Honda at Toho Studios, he even said, like, well, this is a ridiculous concept, let's make it a comedy. And that's like when people tell me that, you know, The Bride of Frankenstein is supposed to be a comedy. I'm like, no, there's really funny moments in both movies, but they're not comedies, they're monster movies.
Yeah, and that's part of it too. I think maybe that is what kills it. It's a 5. It's the bummer part about it. It's a 5. Like, it's not super bad where you want to be like, I can't believe this is happening, let me keep watching. And it's not good enough to be like, yeah, I want to keep coming back to this. It's a 5 where, like, when you're watching it, pulling teeth until the costumes show back up.
I think, well, one, I'm going to have to start scoring because you score. So I'm going to have to start scoring. When I saw it as a little kid, this movie was totally an 8. Like, holy shit, Godzilla just came out of a fucking iceberg.
It's got so many good
and it's King Kong versus Godzilla, holy shit. This movie was tops for me. And then, in my 20s, in my first or second apartment, when we would have people over for bad movie night, it was like, God, this movie's terrible. But I'm not apologizing for it. I'm simply saying that was production values at the time for Toho compared to like an American studio which had money to just blow on shit. And even then, who was going to make anything like that in America except for maybe Harryhausen, and he was, you know, he had the money and the time and the patience to do the type of thing that we would love to see. Okay, that didn't happen, and so you have this. Yes, it's cheese, but God, it's fun. So for me, it becomes, it's waffled its way to a solid 7 in my life.
Okay, so since you say that, I have an interesting concept that I have arrived at now watching this for whatever, the 4th or 5th time in my life. I'm going to spoil it for you. Every time has been wildly different. First time, awesome. I'm a kid. It's Godzilla, King Kong. I'm like, whoa! Later in life, it's like, oh, look how terrible this is, the dubbing, all the like, weird cutaways and the film stuff, and yada, yada, yada. Then, like, the third time was like, I encountered it again in my 20s, and I was like, oh, it's nostalgia. This time, you start to look at all the brown face stuff, and you start to look at all like the obvious time wasting. I was begging for those close-up shots of the costumes of King Kong with the blinking, of the slow blink. I love when he was falling asleep.
Oh, yeah.
All of that I loved. Because there are good points when he breaks out of the glacier.
Yeah.
Great. That's a spike. But then we go back down, and then we have the initial encounter, and then we go back down. So instead of being an all up or down, it was this stomach-churning kind of roller
spiky
coaster.
trip, yeah. You probably knew this, but this is the first time ever that Godzilla was in color, first time ever that King Kong was in color. So it's transitional in that regard, too. It's like, from that standpoint, this is the one where it's like, hey, let's really do it. So at least there's that whole final fight where it's not just like over in 5 minutes.
This one, seeing as how I've watched it so often and in such different periods of my life, it's hard to be like, yeah, it's definitely something you should watch, because in certain mindsets and for certain people shouldn't.
Right. No, I agree 100%. I mean, that's just it. As a fan of monster movies, and especially of old school Godzilla movies, I love this movie. Am I going to say, Mom, Dad, you totally need to watch this fucking movie?
Yeah.
No. I think that was part of my journey with this movie. I remember watching it for bad movie night and having this sinking feeling like, oh, there's other people in the room and they're not enjoying this.
Yeah.
And so somewhere along the way, I said, fuck that. This movie's fun. And I had a good time with it anyways. and it's one of those movies I'll leave on loop. Now,
Really?
just as background noise because I've seen it so many times, so I know what's going on if I just hear the scene. So the point is it's a kiddie playground, but it's a familiar kiddie playground, and it's one that you use to play at.
Right.
And when nobody's looking, it's totally cool to go play on the kiddie playground.
Keep in mind, like, that playground, you're not the only one visiting it, so every time you come back, there's another piece of weird graffiti in the slide,
Right,
and
right.
you're like, ugh, I didn't see that before. And I am serious about this. There is one thing that pays off, and it's the string. Without that string, the movie would be completely...
You mean in terms of like a setup and payoff and
Yes.
storytelling? Yeah.
Everything happens at random. It's
Right.
basically like Hungry Hippos. They're all trying to get the marbles. It doesn't matter who gets what. It's just happening, and it's exciting, and it's a game. If you're used to it and it's your thing, like, I can't say anything against it. But if you're going to come to it fresh...
That's what I'm saying. It's unabashedly enjoy it, and if anybody else happens to be in the room, then you get to point and laugh at how much they're not enjoying it.
It is what it is. It's just I'm now curious in however many years from now when I see it again how it'll hit me. It's not something you can check out of
No.
and just sort of pop back in to laugh at. It's so confusing. It's frustratingly engaging.
Yeah.
It's not engaging where you're like, oh, tell me more. It's like, what? Why are you? And then this is, how can, like.
The electricity thing, even since I was a little kid, has always got me. It's like just out of the blue. I know there's a little bit of setup in there somewhere.
Because it was Frankenstein.
Right, exactly. That's exactly
kept it.
Yeah, and they kept it in.
When they were trimming the fat, for some reason, they left a big-ass chunk right through the middle of the movie.
Well, you know, sometimes it's really hard to cut out the gristle and still make the steak.
Yeah. Like, Japanese culture is in itself a brilliant lens, a prism, a colored lens.
Yeah.
And you have film, and then you have American culture and American films, and you put all of these different lenses that are all different colors together, it's brown. You have a brown light that's just like, it's not its own, it can't be its own thing anymore.
This is exactly why I prefer to, out of the gates, if possible, watch a Japanese animated film in Japanese with subtitles. Because
It's the purest it can be.
right, because so many of them, especially like say something by Studio Ghibli, is so culturally significant. It's about the culture,
Yeah.
and the moment that you have actors trying to make sure that the dialogue fits into the stance when the lips are moving on the character, and therefore changing words just to make sure the dialogue fits, and not necessarily paying as much attention to the story, you're already losing something. And so, yeah, a lot is probably lost.
It's an exquisite corpse.
Right. It really is.
And that's what makes it so engagingly frustrating.
Right. Any favorite moments during the fight?
I don't remember anything specific.
No?
Aside from his triple concussion, Kong's triple concussion, I'll remember that until the day I die, because it happens boom, boom, boom. He should be brain dead, but the power of lightning brings him back to life.
It's true.
So I like that part. But the fact that, like, they and I think maybe that's the second payoff, the hidden payoff. Because we remember, you know, scientist guy says, here's Godzilla's brain, hold it, newsman. And the guy's like, wow, oh, it's tiny. And then they go, here's a gorilla skull. So we know that he's got a brain. So the fact that he kept getting head injuries made me think, okay, that felt intentional. In all of the things that don't feel intentional, it was the one thing I held on to until the thread at the end, the literal thread.
Right. Well, I'm a big fan of, especially the tree to the face, which
to the face is good.
which is actually a callback to the fight between Kong and the T-Rex in 1933. Godzilla keeps on retreating, basically, and turning around and shooting another blast of his heat ray, and you see literally like an explosion right in front of Kong, and then he just runs through it and takes Godzilla on, and then they both go into the sea after tearing down a castle. I'm still riding my 7 high, but knowing full well that it's just me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who knows? Next time we could see an up or a down, but right now we're right in the middle.
Well, maybe I'll get you the Japanese version. Show that to you sometime.
Unless they take away like the copious brown face segments. I don't know how much.
No, I'm afraid all that was originally in there.